for coming. Well, it feels like a early morning in Vegas time, but it's really just noon. But appreciate you guys being here. I'm a little here away, and I am so happy to be here at with the FS talk about Redwood's 5-year journey to becoming a visionary on the Garden Ranch Park. I've been lucky enough to attend every manifest since 2022. I mean, it started at Terrace Casino, Bar Bottomley. Anybody else was at 2022 that was in here? All right. Yeah, there we go. And it's amazing, honestly, just to see how much this has grown. And even just from Terrace to the issue is quite the metaphor, you know. And my company, which lead coverage, has grown right along with Manifest. It really has. I'm a co-founder of lead coverage, and we help supply chain and logistics companies turn demand into revenue through smarter go-to-market strategy. So, easy question, $1 way. Who likes revenue value? Woo! Like, exactly. Anyway, so I come from a family of educators, and Mom McClung, he's an English professor, and what he taught his students was not just the stories about the hero, right? It's also about the guy who helps that hero succeed. Those are some of the best stories. That's basically what we do in lead coverage. We're the Sherpas, not the Sotiers, if you will. So one of our key strategies has always been analyst relations, where we make sure that our clients are recognized by the people shaping the market conversation and influencing enterprise deals. People like my friend Bart among familiars. That's fact. So I started my career in analyst relations 20 plus years ago when I was at Manhattan Associates. And so speaking with my friend Bart, man, that's full circle for me because he was the lead TNS analyst back then at Harvard. And he's going to give his perspective all he always say on his 8 years as vice president of research. And also with me is my friend Mike Reed. Mike is Redwood's chief product officer. And along with Redwood's Eric Rundell, we kind of formed like a little band back in 2021 with the goal of driving Redwood into the Gartner Gilliam sphere and define what would eventually become the fourth party logistics category. And you know, speaking of bands, fun fact, both Bart and Mike are excellent rock and roll guitar players. Art, he's more of a blues place and rock guy. He actually went to see Def Leppard on Saturday. Told him I was also, I didn't recommend to everyone that you're a residency here. So you're a residency here. And Mike, he's 90s fuzz. He's a 90s guy, distortion. Do not let it get you to spank you. Rip, I'm telling you what. So me, I've been playing songs and writing and being in bands since I was a kid. And the worst thing you can do when working on a song and by yourself or with the group is to force it when it's just not happening. It's not working. You got to stop. You got to be honest with yourself. You got to listen and make some adjustments. You got to find a hook. You got to find a melody if you can. And honestly, it's the same kind of thing with the analyst process. So, quick question. Is anyone here considering an analyst relations program or relationship with Gartner or any other analysts? Yeah, you have come to the right place. Well, the first thing you know is where you start is not where you're going to end up. First of all, Gartner is expensive. We all know that. Bart is that right? Expensive?
It is very expensive. But we'll talk about the difference of being a target client, non-target client, and how this relations plays both ways.
Right. But an example, we talked about this earlier, Bart has 3. He's got 2 branches and a Les Paul on his wall. This just to show you just how expensive Gartner is. I'm gonna say. But anyway, it's really just not as simple as just grabbing a license and expecting to be a cool vendor and one guy and eventually in the magic quadrant. You got to be committed and disciplined to the process. So to that end, let me take you back since 2021. Simple time, right? Way fewer tariffs. Too soon? Okay. Got it. Lead coverage had been running our revenue management with Redwood for about a year. And Mike came to me and said, not only are we ready to engage Gardner, but what I'd like to do is create our own category for Redwood Connect, which is our integration orchestration platform. I was all for it. I had some success doing that with another client. And I knew where Mike was coming from because he had an experience with using P44, actually working with Bart to create a real-time visibility. What eventually became what we started out as a cool hype cycle and the whole thing. And Mark, then Magic Quadrant that literally just ended last year. So with all that shared experience, we were going to give it a shot. So I chose the category was the logistics platform as a service, or LPAST. You know, we dearly love our acronyms in this space, as you know. And we thought that would be very specific to the platforms that 3PLs, now 4PLs, were starting to develop at the time. So we identified a great group of analysts on the 3PL space with Gardner, and we started briefing them on LPAST with enthusiasm and confidence. One problem, they hated it. They did not like it at all. It wasn't just like, it was like, stop using the term. Don't use the term. And we were already kind of teeing all of this term up and on all of our sales and marketing messaging. So this is a kind of a pivot point here, and I'll go to our timeline because that was right around March of 2022. So can you tell me your side of receiving that sort of direct feedback?
I absolutely can. Thank you, Will. Thanks for the so pleasure to see everybody here. I think even before that, I'll take a step almost backwards, right? As we were thinking about creation of what we kind of refer to as a new category, it wasn't without the understanding that one, it's a very, very difficult thing to do. So I think you have to lay that out. They have to go into it with an open mindset that this is very tough to change an industry, to evolve an industry, to get something that, frankly, if it wasn't meant for it. We saw that a lot with what we had Graphic 44, real-time visibility, and evolution that came along with it. And then you have to understand how much work there's going to be to communicate, to evolve, and change an industry. But also for us at Redwood, LPAS was a little bit more than just what we wanted to do with the analyst solutions. It was a way of articulating a unique operating model within our business. We're effectively 4 businesses in one. We have a traditional brokerage where we started. We have a very large 3PL managed services, data transportation segment of our business. And then on the other side, we have technology. We have a software as a service business, which is one of our, is our fastest growing business. And on top of that, we have a kind of a consulting SI business with supply chain technology. Add all 4 of those together, to my understanding, my knowledge, there's no good business that does all 4 of those as their core cornerstones of their business. So we were trying to figure out how to articulate all of those things into one. That's how we came up with the logistics platform as a service. But to Will's point, we started having the conversations in the analyst community, this very few specifically. They're like, I understand what you're saying, but I don't like the way the way you articulate it or the term, right? It doesn't resonate. So there's this trial and error process that you go back and forth trying to find your way within what almost the analyst community would put boxes built, or you talk about this all the time, or like you have to put a bound around something in order to define it, and you'll write a research report on it. And we felt that we just didn't fit in any bound or box. We used it in 4 different boxes and different installing components and different methods, but we felt like there wasn't one piece that really articulated our business from top to top.
Yep. And Bart, to you, I mean, you've been on the other side of this for years. So what a vendor comes to you and it's like, here's a category we want to try. What are you looking for? Basically, what are you looking for to sign off on that, or to send another right path? Or also, would you just say, no, this isn't it. Say it.
Yeah, you never want to be too critical or judgmental about it. And I like progress. So I do like that vendors come up trying to create new categories. But the other side of it as well, you got to understand Gartner's number 1 customer base is not service and technology vendors. It's end users that come to Gartner to get advice on what they should invest in. And so they get millions of these call requests, inquiry requests, as they call them, every year.
So they look at that data and say, what is it that the customer is asking us to talk about? And that's also the way they funnel them to the right analyst. If you're saying, well, I want to talk about logistics and platform, they don't have that. And by the way, no customer would ask for that, right? So how do you then guide that conversation? It's the same nowadays when you put an article out, you put it out there on the internet, find it on your website. Everyone's looking at anything that they're looking at SEOs, and you're using the term that people are looking for, right? So the first thing people do before they call Gartner is they Google stuff. So the question is, how many people at the time would Google just as a platform, as a service? No business. So there has to be, besides, is this a good idea or not? Do you have the supply and demand matching each other? And that's where, as Gartner analysts, you help the vendors as well to understand what is it that the customer that you're looking for, your ideal customer profile, what is it that they're coming to us asking for? And obviously, Gartner gives us those stats. These are the requests they're having. And in order to start differentiating yourself, because I think originally when they were doing the 3PL Magic one, there was this whole thing of there's the 3PLs to different approaches. And that's about creating confusion as well. I had the same when I was doing market guide for vehicle routing and scheduling way before you had all these last mile vendors. Originally, last mile vendors were also in the VRS market guide, and then we saw that market really bifurcating, and the last mile vendors were completely different from vehicle routing vendors, although routing was something they might have started with. So we split that out. We created a new market guide. And I think it was the same with the 4BL. But there is time, just as you're programming that and you're getting your company up into that new category, doing the marketing and product development behind it. The analyst community, whether it's Gartner or Forrester or someone else, and that same product development as well. And they want to make sure to not alienate the customer base, but get them on board. I'll say a good example is when I created with Christian Teets and he mentioned one. Christian, I called it the multi-enterprise supply chain business templates. It's a bit of a mouthful, right? And so this wasn't coming from the vendors. This was actually Gartner who created the category, NVSCBN, on something that rolls off the tongue. It took about 2 years before we actually saw vendors adopting that. And it made sense because before it was like, oh, here's all these different flavors of the same thing. Everyone calls it different. So it created a term that people could hang around. But it just shows you the complexity between dealing with end users looking for a solution and then a category being created, how they have to rematch together.
It's a great summary in general, right? Because it's a very bi-directional thing that you have between the vendor, the analyst community, and the end customers. How do you articulate at the end of the day the value proposition for you as a vendor into those end customers via the analyst community and the constructs? For us, and this is what Bill was mentioning earlier, it was more around our internal marketing, right? Of how we as Redwood talk about our products and services is an aggregate method or kind of combo. That was evolution for us as we thought about how to market our business as a whole.
Exactly. And for us to get there, we took this flat feedback from Gartner, but we got some advice too. What they told us was, this isn't for me. I think it was Rob Jones, somebody saw raising that. Rob Jones was like, y'all, this ain't for me. But I know a group and Silas and that they were tasked with exploring breaking out fourth-party logistics to 3PL. It's like, go talk to him. And that's really where it all started for us. I mean, now Mike and Eric and I were working with David and me and Matt to help shape this category for the first time. So we made the adjustment, and that adjustment made all the difference. So do you mind, Brendan?
I was just going to say one thing in that. And sometimes as we think about progress as an industry and we think about innovation and the change of pace, the term, I remember the call very well. We had first call with Matt and David, right? And they said, this is amazing. Everything you're doing fits into this. And for the first time, I had never heard that around our messaging because I felt like we didn't fit into a context or into a specific box. But they said, you guys are 4PL. And my very initial reaction was, the hell we are. Like, I know that's an old term, like we're not, our leadership, like we're not coming in piloting an GM with tons of executives and like it was in my head a older definition, right, of this. And I know we're going to talk about it here in a minute, but we said, okay, well then the market is evolving and changing, and what we had experienced with Redwood, our customers were actually buying 4PL service when we had never called it that, right? Because it was a unique combination of other products and services combined together. And that was like that light bulb moment for us as an organization, where I remember taking this back to our executive team and saying, hey, OPAS just doesn't resonate. But I was talking to this analyst and he said, hey, the terminology for 4PL has evolved. And well, what do we do with that? And then we said, hey, bro, I'm 4PL. Right. That is what it is. And now that is like the basis of our entire marketing and who we are as an organization. And it's totally from me and everything we do. And we'll fast forward here a bit, but it's drastically changed the way that we talk about and articulate ourselves to the market.
Yeah. I mean, it was in that. So that initial research was in 2022. It was a innovation insight. But what we did was, I mean, that instantly became a demand generation opportunity for us with reprints and such. And a lot of you guys that are involved in this have done that before. And not only that, like Mike, you said you really leaned in at this time, like you took modern 4PL and put it in all your marketing. It's like leaned in. So my question to you was, how did that go? How did you make that happen internally? Where you're just like, hey guys, remember this best thing we're also so excited about? Not doing that anymore.
Yeah. Well, the person who might have been the president of our organization came and adopted this term originally. He was a little heartbroken that his term wasn't going to resonate, create any category. But once we got over that, kind of the fear of, I created this stuff and we're going to move on to something else. The industry, the internal, the employees, leadership team, everybody said, oh, this actually makes sense. It is a term that is out in the marketplace. It has a formal definition that is close to what we are, and now we are helping to evolve it. So instead of creating a new category, we're evolving a pre-existing category. But we're evolving it in the way that we have been operating with our customers now 10 plus years of that point. And it was really exciting, I think, and that the snowball started to turn, and being able to fast forwarding a little bit and thinking about the order of operations in which we approached this. As I said earlier, we effectively ran as 3 separate businesses inside of one for many years. Because if you think about the evolution of our business, we had one, then we brought on another, and we created another. They were literally, when we have a board meeting, there are 3 different P&Ls and they roll up in one. And so we started externally facing first by saying, hey, we're one organization. We are one modern full deal. And over the last 3 years, since this journey has happened, we've gone almost an internal journey to operate as one organization. So this is one instance, which I think some organizations go the opposite way, right? Where our external market presence actually drove our internal corporate strategy. And literally, if you look at a board deck for a board meeting next week, you'll see one Redwood. And the way that we operate and the way that we talk to our investors and our customers is now one unified business in different products and service offerings. So it's totally transformed the course of our company throughout its journey. And it's this point here is one of those, points in your company history, which you would never expect it, right? Thinking about that coming from a government vessel. Maybe what I think.
Well, yeah, the part is, right? Research is just one part of it. But you got to remember that an analyst that you're talking to, they might talk to one vendor a day. They might talk to 8 to 10 clients per day. So by informing the clients, even if you're not a partner client, you're a vendor, you don't have to be a client to do a vendor briefing with partner. Anyone can do that. And it's to work for them. That's how they discover new vendors. But also when you do that on a regular basis, they understand what it is you do, what you're offering. And so when a customer comes and asks about a specific company or is looking for a particular service or technology solution, they know, oh, I talked to this company. It aligns with their requirements. What do you call it? Logistics platform as a service. When you call it 4PL, they go way deeper into the requirements and they can match it to live. And so that is a very important part besides the research aspect of having those analyst relations to be able to put yourself on the map and to match. And that's the service partner does. It's not just great research. It's to be able to serve the customers and asking based on their requirements to help them find the right partner.
So, and Marty, you could probably talk about this too, because as soon as that started in 2022 and published that research, we mirrored it. Then you got to the scales and we go right back into the cycle. So we spent the next 2 years working with them to continue shaping this thing from 2 different market gap cycles. And each time for them, we get the same demand generation kit, we replace it in the reprint. But the other thing we did at lead coverage was we put some of the analysts in the media relations strategy. You've done this with Bart a number of times because that enabled them to talk about their research beyond the Gartner thing all forever. And Gartner liked it because it was free, especially, so it worked down there. But so kind of an ancillary benefit to all this when you open yourself up to this type of research is that it gives you opportunities for other parts of your business to be involved in different parts of research. Like, for instance, in 2023, Redwood Hyperion, which was their carbon accounting platform, well, that was in the first ever carbon accounting market beyond. And that's not something we planned for. And then later on this year, Redwood Connect itself will be in the logistics integration market guide that's published later this year. Again, these aren't things that we planned for when we started doing all this. There's opportunities that happened and we took advantage of it. But back to the thing, and it's never where you start. Where you start's not where you're going to be at. Where you're going to be in. So this all kind of culminates to the beginning of 2025 with the Magic Quadrant cycle, and our goal. And internally, as I'm on the team, right, was that we wanted to be in the visionary corner. So we did, we made that kind of the focus of all of our interactions with these guys, and we use our customers to do the same. So Mike, back to you, like, when did you know that all of this was starting to work internally or externally through this time period?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, I don't think we truly know that it works until you, to your point earlier, you start to get actual qualified leads from your relationships with the analyst, right? You have a conversation that end customer is looking for something. They reach out to Gartner or another analyst or another group, and they say, "Hey, I'm looking for X, Y, and Z," and they say, "Hey, it's on Redwood." That's when you know it really works, right? Because at the end of the day, those are the highest quality leads as an organization you can find. They've been pre-vetted, they know exactly, and they have a trusted advisor that has told them that this is one of the companies that they should talk to. For me, that's the ultimate. That's the reason why we do this, right? All back to your original comment. It's about revenue, right? It's about getting your name out of the industry, about finding those right ideal customers, right? We can meet here all day networking with 1,000 people, but if you get, one really good sales lead, your day is probably made for itself, right? How you accelerate that process for me and for our band, right? That was the journey that we said, hey, we're going to invest the time and energy, working with Gartner and the team to be able to drive those leads from that source.
I think for a lot of companies, it might change a little bit, but I spent 10 years with PepsiCo. I was the enterprise architect for all the logistics applications of feed, warehousing, and transportation. Any new project we had, we would go in front of the CIO and they ask always two questions. One, if you're proposing anything besides SAP, tell me why not SAP? And secondly, did you discuss this with Gartner? What was their opinion? Now, a lot of people might think, well, now we have AI and we just ask AI. Right? Maybe that's because AI is really getting an answer rather than going to Gartner. They having to wait a few weeks or months to talk to an analyst. But the thing is that people, when they make an important decision, they want to get that from a trusted advisor. But that's Gartner or that's someone else. That's the important point. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. A computer is not going to recommend you what you're going to do. It's not going to recommend you with other important life decisions.
Hey, Will, great session up there on stage. For those who are not familiar, could you do a quick summary of just yourself and lead coverage and what y'all are all about?
I am Will Haraway. I'm the co-founder of Lead Coverage, and what we do is we provide go-to-market strategies for companies that are in supply chain and logistics. we look to turn demand into revenue.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So today's panel, you had, I think, one of your clients up there. You had Bart. Kind of talk through what the conversation was today.
Well, we wanted to show people basically how analyst relations really works from the beginning to the end. So we took people through the journey that we had with Redwood, where they had first started. They were kind of going from unknown to known. So we had Mike Reed, who's been working with us, our longest tenured client, and this is the biggest thing that we've done. And then Bart, I've known my whole career because he was a Gartner analyst. Now he's out on his own, and I knew he was going to provide great perspective to people as far as like what an analyst thinks about and what they're looking for.
I think that the topics that y'all brought up were probably very salient for people that are also looking to leverage, the Magic Quadrant. Can you talk a little bit more of the detail of the evolution of making the Magic Quadrant for 4PL happen?
Absolutely. I mean, what you got to do is, first of all, figure out what quadrant or what category that you're in. So that's kind of a process you have to go through. And that's what we talked about today, where it ended up being this 4PL category. And then it's a kind of a roadmap. You start with the market guide, and then you eventually make your way 3-4 years later into a Magic Quadrant. But every time those things are published along the way, they become opportunities for revenue. They become opportunities for demand generation. They become opportunities for thought leadership, for media relations, because all this Gartner stuff is behind a paywall, So when we can get the analysts and our client together talking about a category, that creates even more content that we can use for your demand generation.
All right. Yeah. A fun question in here. Clearly, you all have maybe a little bit of a view into the crystal ball of new Magic Quadrants and new things coming on the horizon. You kind of probably influence that. Can you share what may be coming out in the near future, kind of like similar to the 4PL model that logistics and supply chain companies could be starting to think about?
Well, that's probably an easy one because you know that it's going to be agentic AI. There's going to be a supply chain AI track. You've started to see it sort of within different categories, but not really on its own. And there's tons of AI vendors that I'm sure are chomping at the bit to get into that. AI logistics vendors that are chomping at the bit to get in on something like that.
Okay, excellent. Just anything that I didn't ask about now, any last bits and pieces you want to make sure get in on the video or anything like that?
No, I mean, it's really just that analyst relations is people think it's a really high price barrier. It depends on how you do it. Certainly Gartner's really expensive, but there are plenty. I mean, Bart actually has his own firm, that Lead Coverage. We're actually partners with him. We use him all the time. And that can sort of give you an introduction into this world and really some at-bats. And even with Gartner, you can still brief them if you're not a client. I mean, you can do as many briefings as you want. Actually, you don't get the back-to-back feedback and interaction that you receive, but you can still do it to make sure that they're aware of you in your category. And that's really what we do, is plan that out for you and give you a strategy behind it, so that not only do we have a plan for the process itself, but we have a plan for every time you have research coming out that immediately goes out into the marketplace to help you build your pipeline.
Yeah, get you some coverage.
Yeah.
All right. Good to meet you, Will.
All
Good
right.
job up there. I just saw you up on stage. Tell us a little bit about what you were all talking about up there.
So we were talking about Redwood and their kind of AR relationship with Gartner, and how we went from the first discussions they had when they were still branding as their logistics platform as a service to becoming a 4PL in the most recent Magic Quadrant that was brought out by Gartner end of last year.
Mm-hmm. And were you part of that process, kind of part of that journey with Lead Coverage and Redwood, or in some sort of role?
I was not part of any of that. I kind of gave my kind of insights. Having been an author of multiple different Magic Quadrants, I've been done that for 8 years at Gartner, to kind of lift a little bit of the veil of behind that. How do you create a category? How do you create the MQ?
Yeah.
Because obviously, as they were trying to create the category of logistics platform as a service, why did that not stick, and why did it become an MQ on 4PL?
Yeah. What was kind of like the big takeaway for people that were in that audience? What do you think is the main thing they should have taken away from that conversation?
I think one is that creating a good category is a new category is not a bad thing, but it has to relate to, one, what analysts see in the market,
which mainly goes back to their customers and end users buying services and technology solutions.
Okay.
So it's the same as today when you put an article out or when you put this out, you put metadata against it, you put an SEO against that, people will look for it. And if it doesn't hit those keywords, people are not going to find it. And the reality is that people weren't looking for logistics platform as a service, right? That's one thing. The second part is interact with analysts, not just from an AR perspective of hoping to be in research, but also understand that these are people that talk to your prospects and your customers on a daily basis. So keep them informed. It's a collaborative kind of process.
Yeah.
So that when they have a customer asking for a service or a solution, they know your company and they can recommend you as one of the vendors they should look at.
Excellent. All right. Well, good way to start Manifest 2026 here. I'll see you around.
All right. Good seeing you, Nate.
Yep.